Welcome to your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. My name is Chris Rubio, and welcome to Decades. Decades is a brand new show where we have a male in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s, and we're going to talk about things you normally wouldn't talk about. We really feel that in society nowadays, we need to get people from all over the country, different beliefs, different heights, different religions, different thought processes, just to sit down and talk about things, like I said, that you normally wouldn't talk about, and then maybe learn to agree to disagree. Let me bring out my co-host, director, editor, producer, boom man, Ed McAndrew, not McAndrews. What's up?
Hey, Rubio, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
That's awesome. Doing great. And before we get started, two quick little bits for you. One, gotta give you a shout. Got to give a shout out to our brother Jimmy Mack. Not feeling too well tonight.
Yeah.
Hope you feel well. Hope you feel a lot better, brother. We're thinking about you. And the second thing is, this is our 10th episode. We've made it 10 episodes. They're still keeping us on and rocking and rolling. So I'm excited to hit number 10, and I think we've got another good show coming our way. So
fantastic.
Let me take it away.
I'm going to introduce everyone. We're going to start from youngest this time to oldest. Let's see. I'm going to put you on the spot, Ed, see if you can figure it out. Our youngest, representing the 20s, Cruz Rubio. He's a college student athlete, likes arguing, tacos, hiking, and hanging at the beach with his chanclas on. Welcome, Cruz.
Howdy.
Next up is Joe Nolan, but Joe's not here. He's running late. There's no traffic and there's no issues with his perfectly beautiful city in Philly. Next up is Jim Gingrich. He's representing our 50s. He's an Idaho cybersecurity consultant, and he enjoys outdoors and lots and lots and lots of guns. What's up, James?
Happy Tuesday.
Give it up for our first 60-year-old, Jay Gaskill. He was a district court judge. He tells me that's pretty high up there. He's an Idaho native, recently retired, an outdoorsman, and a fine wine connoisseur, and supposedly can make one hell of a, they call it old-fashioned. Welcome, Judge.
Thanks, Rubio. Young at heart.
At last, but certainly not least, residing in Tampa, we've got Bill Geiser. He's a serial entrepreneur and innovative wearable tech, and he has two outstanding sons. Give it up for Bill.
Hello, gang. How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
All right. Fantastic.
Let's jump right into this. We got Joe's coming on in a little bit. Jimmy Mack is faking sick. So we're going to go with this. About 2 weeks ago, someone named Jordan Neely, he was a person who was put into basically a headlock on a New York City subway. He was in his chokehold. He was basically killed / murdered. But there's a whole different way of looking at this. The reason why I wanted to bring this up, and I switched the topic right with our group right away because we were going to do something different. And I said, no, we're going to do Jordan Neely because I wanted to see how different, before even the narrative came out, how different everyone was going to look at it. So pick one, Ed, can you pick number one for me? So this one, Jordan Neely, the man who died last week after being in a chokehold on a New York City subway, was on a list of homeless people identified dire needs, according to familiar with the case. Neely, a 30-year-old street artist known for his Michael Jackson impersonations, was restrained and forced. Okay, he keeps going and keeps going. The last paragraph, before his death, Neely had been on a New York City Department of Homeless Services lists of the city's homeless with acute needs, sometimes referred to as eternal top 50. Okay, so just this alone, you think, okay, homeless guy, but then you start to think, okay, he's known for Michael Jackson impersonations. Seems like a decent enough dude. He was on this list of top 50. He's been on this list for quite some time. There's so much for me to take apart on this right now, but does anyone see any problem with this just by looking at that? Because if you just read that, you would immediately think one thing. James, you nodded. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I don't know anybody here has wrestled or done anything. You can't put someone in a chokehold for 15 minutes. You said at the beginning you can do a headlock. You physically can't choke someone, but we're focusing on the wrong things. We're talking about race. We're talking about, Neely, who is a decorated Marine. What we're forgetting is that this person has been arrested 42 times. One for dragging a young lady down the road, kidnapping, one for punching an old lady, and only spent a few months in jail. New York spends estimated $2 to $3 billion this year on the homeless. There's a city that's also defunded the police. And so now not only do you have a senseless death from someone with mental issues, but you also have a person's life ruined in the form of, I can think of his name, the Marine who choked him. So I can go into that a lot more, but at the onset, it's a tragedy because a lot of people are affected and it shouldn't have happened had things been done right by the city.
Judge, you were shaking your head.
Well, I agree with one thing that Jim said, and that's that a chokehold is not a headlock, being an ex-wrestler. A headlock is not fatal. A chokehold can be. I legally speaking, you can't look at Mr. Neely's past record in this case to see whether there's a crime or not. Daniel Penny was the name of the Marine that choked him to death. He didn't know his record. He knew only the situation on the subway. And according to the recorder, the independent journalist that recorded it, he was aggressive and yelling, but not physically threatening anyone. So yeah, you can't take vigilante justice and have a death penalty over something like that. You just can't have it.
But Judge, I had a feeling you were going to say something just like this. So here's my thought. You can't look back at his 42 other arrests, but do you remember 3 weeks ago when we did the indictment of El Trumpo? And you and Joe adamantly said he's been an ass since 1972. He's had all these accusations against him. He's had all this stuff. So when can we look at the past of someone?
Well, all the indictments on Trump don't rely on his past behavior. The legal indictments rely
grabbing someone by the blank. That's behavior.
But you're mixing up things here. Indictments are for specific acts that he did, whether it's his business or whatever. It's not based on his past. We're just saying he was a scum. But
that shouldn't matter.
Mr. Penny did not know Mr. Neely's past, so you can't bring that in as any sort of justification.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
You know, first of all, I'd say it's unfortunate that this Mr. Neely died. He was let down by the state of New York in a number of ways. Ed, can you bring up that photo I sent you? This one just shocked me when I saw this today. That blue line shows on a per 100 basis that on or about 1960, we had around 600 people per 100,000 in mental hospitals. And in the span of, call it 60 years, that has gone down to almost zero. And the number of people who are in prison has flipped with it. What that means is our prisons are are the facilities for the mentally ill in the United States. And that's got to be fixed. I would say too that given now what we know about Mr. Neely, he was mentally ill and he was a criminal, and you can be both. You know, there's no law against, you have to be decided one or the other. He was both. Now, as far as Penny is concerned, the Marine, yeah, he didn't know anything about this guy's background. I would say that, you know, think of the environment he's in. In New York, if I know, if I'm correct on this, unlike Florida, where you have a stand your ground law, I think in New York, you have an obligation to retreat. But how do you retreat in a subway car? You can't. And so here you've got some wackadoodle, like, you know, someone is saying he wasn't aggressive, but the fact is Neely wasn't the only guy on this guy. There were two other people on there. So clearly there's some evidence that other people were afraid of this guy and things got out of hand. So, you know, we'll find out when the evidence, hopefully he's he's tried in a real court of law and not in the court of public opinion. We'll find out what happened. We'll find out if the guy had drugs in his system, because I saw a video that after the Marine got off him, the Marine actually tried to revive him, and this guy was still moving. So he wasn't dead from this chokehold.
Yeah, they put him in a recovery position, and that video is just coming out today. Weird that they had just the one video of him with a chokehold. They kept showing that with just this one guy, and they didn't show the other guy that was pinning him down as well. And this is a guy, Jordan Neely, where he's been on Reddit. They've been writing articles about him. People have been publicizing, have videos of this guy for literally like over a decade of just harassing subway people. And like you said, you're in this little metal tube going 30 miles per hour. Where are you going to retreat to?
There is
you
no
got
place
family with you. If you got wife and kids, I mean, what are you going to do? Just let this guy continue to go whack?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, you know what if my granddaughter were on there? Would I be happy that someone like that Marine did something? Damn right I would.
Cruz, you were just recently.
Unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at today. But
Cruz, you were recently in New York. What did you see this guy, or how was this? I mean, did you see other things like this?
Yeah, I was in New York over Christmas time, but I did not happen to cross paths with this guy. But yeah, I mean, you see these type of people all the time on the subway. People that are cracked out, people that are acting crazy. It's nothing new, nothing peculiar. And going back to, I think James said it, or maybe Bill, that, the state has failed these people. And you see this with a lot of these big time states, California, even Texas, Florida, New York. I mean, any of these big time states, homeless are becoming a problem quicker and quicker and quicker. And the states aren't really doing much to help them.
Ed, can you pick up pick number 2 for me, please? Because this is the continuation of that CNN article. If you go all the way down to the bottom, he was a talented dancer. But then at the very end, the very last paragraph of it, including 42 arrests on charges, including petty larceny, jumping subway turnstiles, theft, and 3 unprovoked assaults on women in the subway between 2019 and 2021. What they don't tell you is that those women, one was a 7-year-old that he drugged down the street, and then he punched 2 grandmothers in the face. I mean, not even just one grandma, 2. But the fact of the matter is that they lay that all the way to the very end after he's his Michael Jackson impersonator. And it's to the point now where when you see this, you can automatically know there's going to be a home team and then there's a away team. And it just happens every single time. Judge, you're shaking your head. Why?
It's got nothing to do with this situation. His past has nothing to do with it, unless Mr. Penny knew his past, which there's no evidence he did.
But I know what I'm saying is the problem is that this guy he's the problem. He's the issue over and over and over again. So why isn't he getting fixed, Jim?
Well,
Go ahead, Judge.
let me jump in there real quick first. He's not getting fixed because, as Bill's chart showed, in 1967, President Reagan signed a bill called the Lanterman-Petraeus Short Act, which did away with federal mental institutions and dumped them on the streets. And now they've switched, instead of going to institutions, to prisons. And 55% of people in prisons have diagnoses of mental health issues. So that's whose fault it is.
Okay, but we've been, that's what, 70 years ago? Or we're not going to just look at it and fix it? I mean, well, what are they doing? That's my question.
It was the federal government punting it off to the states, which just hasn't worked.
But then the states aren't doing anything, so you basically voted for it. So there you go.
Voted
right?
for who?
If you're not voting to change it, then you're still voting for it, is what I'm saying. Jim, go ahead.
Well, Mayor Adams put a law into place that, of course, had huge outcry from the left, and that allowed police to involuntarily commit people to mental institutions. So they are still there to get care. And so, again, on the topic of New York state letting him down, if there were police on there, that could have happened. 2, as Bill said about a granddaughter, I would have been in the same place. I just recently went through an event where somebody went after my stepdaughter, and you want to protect them. And I'm not defending, because we'll never know all the facts, as normal citizens. But this Penny guy is a military person trying to protect the country. He actually made sergeant in his 4 short years. He had decorations. Part of what the reporter who actually listed this said, he cried, "I don't care if I die. I don't care if I hurt somebody. I don't care whatever. And he also tried to push someone over the tracks. That just came out today when I was researching for the podcast. So the city let him down. Penny shouldn't have been in that position, but Penny was doing what he was trained to do. And the judge is right. We have let mental issues go by the wayside, but also he's a criminal. He's on ketamine. They said that. I think that's what K2 is. I don't really know, but probably other things once they bring the autopsy back. So whether it's a mental institution or incarcerated for dragging a young late 7-year-old by the hair or punching 2 old ladies in the face, most of his other violations were somewhat minor, but many of them involved subway issues and transit authority. So nobody should have been put in that position to protect people. And a guy stepping up when people are afraid and trying to help them, yes, he probably stepped over the line. I don't know. But it's sad because his life is going to be ruined as well. And Mayor Adams, having been a former cop, trying to put a rule in place is saying, hey, the police have the ability to put you in an institution. However, there's no police around because we decided the police are evil and got rid of them. So the whole thing stinks on that side. This should have never happened. The city let him down, and they're always a hero after the fact. His family's having this huge outcry. One of the things he kept saying is he's tired of being hungry. Well, where's the family? I'll tell you where the family was. Drug addicts and mentally ill people piss their family off, finally abandon them, won't take help, and run away. And there is no system in New York, apparently, and probably in most states, as the judge said, to take care of this. So you can't help those who don't want help. But that person still puts others at risk. He put people on the subway at risk, and he's created crimes where he should not have been out on the street, period.
And period. Bill, I'm coming right to you, but we're going to do it right after this first commercial break.
Hello, my name's Ian Hill. And when I'm not training to be the oldest man to play NCAA Division I college football, I'm the CEO of NGBN TV. Our mission is pretty simple. Educate, equip, entertain, support, and inspire men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's a one-stop shop for all that a man in his middle ages needs to be his best. So once you come and join us, come and be a part of NGBN TV. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. And do not forget to subscribe to the Decades YouTube channel and keep sharing it all across all social media avenues. We've got the judge, James Gingrich, Cruz Rubio, and Bill Geiser. James, you just finished us off with a phenomenal statement. You did very, very well, but Bill wants to piggyback. Let's see it.
You know, I don't know whether, you know, what the legality stance on this is, but I do know this. People don't feel safe in America, particularly in big cities. I mean, we've got the defund the police movement going on that has really contributed a great deal to that. But there's something else going on too, particularly in the, I'll call it the so-called blue states, where we've had defense attorneys, city prosecutors. They used to, in the past, when I grew up, they used to fight like hell for we the people. You know, there's a tension, a built-in tension, which is really good in the judicial system when it's working well. You've got public defenders, you've got defense attorneys, you've got people like that who do everything in their power to get people let off from criminal crimes or whatever they've been charged with. And on the other side, you have the prosecution who fights like hell to prove their case and put the bad guys in jail. That tension has disappeared in our judicial system today in certain cities where the defense attorneys aren't representing we the people. They're representing social causes, activist causes, and they're doing the job of the defense people in some cases. And the net result is we're walking around these streets and we're afraid. So when some knucklehead comes up to us, are we thinking about a cop coming to our aid? No effing way. No one's coming to our aid. We got to defend ourselves. That's just reality right now, guys. And in a subway car with some kooky guy yelling at the top, everyone's high strung, afraid for their lives. Accidents are going to happen. Unfortunately, one did here.
Judge, you got that shit-eating grin on your face.
Well, I'm not sure it was an accident in the first place. I guess the evidence will show whether it was an accident or not.
So it was premeditated.
Well, the chokehold certainly was. I would say I don't
But
think
the killing
don't think-
was
I don't think
premeditated.
the judicial system is to blame. The United States has the highest per capita incarceration rate in the world. Any one time we have 2 million people incarcerated. That's obviously not working. I agree with you that it's not working. It's not because of the legal system. There's nowhere to send them except prison. You try to do everything you can. There are no long-term treatments. There's no private treatment facilities. Your only hope is to send them to prison and hope they get some sort of sober time and treatment there. It's not the legal system. It's not the lawlessness. It's that we have no set federally based long-term.
Why wasn't this guy in prison after 42 or 44 convictions?
Well, it's like Jim said, some of them were serious, like 3 were serious, but you're not going to send somebody to prison for jumping a turnstile or any of those type of
breaking the orbital bone on a 67-year-old woman.
I can't speak to that because I have not researched that incident. I know he was sentenced to a 15-month treatment program for one of those. He left after 13 days and there was no follow-up on it. So I don't know who's to blame for that, but we're always on this program. Certain people saying we need to get tough on crime. I think if you trust the legal system, you need to see if there's a crime here. I think that applies as much to a 23-year-old ex-Marine as it does to any black person. So.
Perfect. That's a perfect segue, Judge. Because immediately when I saw this, I thought, okay, it's going to go this way. And then you see the obvious, the elephant in the room here, where you got black guy down, white guy choking him. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, they're going to run big on this one. And so I thought to myself, okay, this is maybe just the first murder in the subway. Then I did a little research. Ed, can you pull up pick 4 for me? So you notice right around the Rona, everyone gets all pissy because everyone's locked down and murders jump. In 2023, they've had 11 subway murders. I think I read that. My question is, so in the past, that's 14, 23, blah, 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 30 murders in the past 4 years. How come this is the first time I'm reading about one? I don't need to put a tinfoil hat on to just go, okay, they're obviously going to push a narrative on this because the media loves to have everyone hitting heads together. So, basically got to create more fear, got to create more separation. Ed, you can take that one down. Cruz, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole divide that the media is trying to build up, and it's clear. And I like to use the example of like a couple months ago, there was a black homeless man that killed a white homeless man. I think it was in St. Louis.
Yep.
Execution style. There was no media coverage about that because it doesn't divide people and they don't care. This does a great job of dividing people, black between white. I have family that lives in New York City right now. They were telling me about all the different types of protests that were going on this weekend, and it was all based around race. It wasn't based around mental health or providing, mental health people with the certain things that they need to seek help. It was all about black versus white, and that's the true divide. And what the media is trying to do is divide us amongst race.
James, you're nodding.
I agree. I knew it would turn to that because to me, that could have been as easily a black Marine. I mean, this is a military person trained to protect people. He saw people in harm's way and he did what he's trained to do. Did he do it right? No, maybe. Don't know the answer to that. And I will say I agree with the judge. I mean, we are over incarcerated, and I've really pushed heavily on that topic with family and friends. But the majority of that over incarceration has been due to nonviolent stuff. So we put a lot of people in jail, and ratio-wise, more black people for drugs. Offenses that aren't violent or not hurting anybody else. Sales. So that accounts for a large majority of that. But I also did some research on homeless people, and it turns out only about 1/3. It's hard to get good numbers and facts, so I'm not going to get mad if somebody argues, but only about 1/3 have mental issues, and a lot of them don't want that help. So to me, the second saddest thing besides a person dying that should have been helped and a Marine's life being ruined is that the media jumped right on this, turned it into race. I don't think this had anything to do with race at all, none whatsoever. This was a Marine who committed to giving his life to America, trained to protect people, got put in a situation, may have handled it wrong, may not have. We'll let the law figure that out. But the other sad part is it shouldn't have happened. It just should not have happened. And that's a fault of New York. It's the fault of voters who vote people in to have less police. It's the fault, as the judge said, of not having mental health available to people, but it's not a race thing. It has nothing to do with race.
And the narrative of, as soon as it came out, you had young congresswomen putting up pictures, and every single picture was him at like 13.
I mean,
You know?
AOC.
Yeah, AOC had a picture of him at like 13 or 18, who he's doing one time when he was, dancing on Broadway or something like that. It's like, why don't you show a picture of him, from the past 5 years where he's completely strung out and he's yelling at people? And there's videos already, people that have been saving them saying, if you see this guy, Michael Jackson impersonator, it's a code red. You need to get the hell away from this guy, because he's a liability, not only to himself, but to others. And if you're walking through, going to the Mets game or a Yankees game, and you're on the subway and you got your kids with you, what are you going to do? I mean, you can only hide them for so long. I mean, and that's the main issue there. Bill?
I agree. I mean, this is the problem. I think I told you guys about a month ago in San Francisco, I pulled into a hotel in downtown San Francisco about midnight and got confronted by two homeless guys. And fortunately, it didn't lead into any physical confrontation, but it was very close. And I mean, I was, really kind of thinking I was going to have to fight my way to get into the hotel. And there's just too much of this going on right now. I don't know what the short-term solution is, if it's putting police in subway cars, but we should be doing something.
Well, at what point does someone look at, okay, the judge is saying there's not enough places in prison for these people. At what point does the prison need to ramp it up a little bit and make it, if you commit a crime, if it's bigger or smaller or whatever it is, that your punishment's a little bit harsher so you don't go into jail? It's not a vacation. Does anyone ever think about that? Judge, go ahead, you're smiling.
I don't think going to prison's a vacation anywhere.
But I know, but this people are getting let out literally on the hour. I just saw something about this Venezuelan immigrant who was in Chicago. He's been arrested 3 times in the past 15 days. Like, okay, at some point we got to say, okay, man, either you can't be here, or maybe we got to keep you in prison a little bit longer, or it's got to be a little bit rougher of a time.
I don't think that you're grasping the fact that the prison isn't what we're needing. We need treatment, not prison.
I agree with that.
But is that a bail reform issue?
No, bail is before conviction, so it wouldn't be an issue on that.
Why? They're letting them out without bail? That's not a problem?
Well, when your jails are full, you'd have certain things you have to do. It's like Jim was saying, if you got somebody in there for drugs and your jails are full, you're going to let those out before you let the rapists and the ag assault people out. You can only keep so many people incarcerated. Idaho's spending another, $100 million to build a new prison, but we won't build any treatment facilities. So prison hasn't worked. I don't care how many prisons you have or how hard you make them. They're not working for mental health issues.
That's a good segue. Ed, take us to our last commercial, then we're going to come back with our recaps from each person. Welcome back to your new favorite show on the NGBN.TV network. And also big shout out to Charles Walls. That's his Bear Essentials podcast. And he's a huge, huge watcher of our show. He always likes to see the heated discussions between you guys. And, we're getting a lot of people that are picking favorites and not favorites, but I think it's good. You guys are getting little teams, almost like a Hunger Games, which is, I guess it's kind of good. All right. So let's go round robin here. We'll start with you, Cruz. Is there a solution? Was this obviously just a narrative that they're running with? How long is this going to go? Tell me your final thoughts.
Yeah, this will pass. I guarantee you in a week, nobody will be talking about this. Something else will be brought up about something that's wrong within this country. I don't really think there's a solution to this necessarily, but I think doing what we're doing right now is a great starting point. Bringing up conversations about mental health, talking about what needs to be done on the federal level, discussing it here so that, people in San Luis Obispo, California, and Lewiston, Idaho, I think Bill's from Tampa, Florida, you know, and parts of the country, we can start communicating and realize that something is an issue and continuing to talk about it with people around us.
Bill, go ahead. You look like you're chomping at the bit.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think the judge nailed it. I think we got a mental health problem here. I think we got to solve that. We got to make that a priority.
And then does that go back to voting different people in? I mean, just like that's all we need to do. Like, hey guys, let's do this.
Well, however, we got to get it done. That might be part of the solution. But the fact of the matter is, we've got a lot of mental health issues as the root cause of crime in America, and we're not dealing with it. And I think this ties very nicely to some of the conversations we've had on guns too. I think the guys pulling triggers on guns are mentally ill as well. I think if we solve the mental illness problem in America, we solve a bunch of other downstream issues off that.
I won't call you a liar. Judge?
Well, a little scared because I think Jim and Bill and I have agreed more tonight than ever. So if maybe I'm becoming too conservative or whatever's happening here.
That's
Welcome
not
to the
possible,
club.
Judge.
But I will say, I agree. We've got to deal with the mental health. We've got to deal with the homelessness issues. There's obviously not enough podcast host jobs to keep the homeless employed. So we've got to come up with a new solution.
G-Man?
Look, I do enjoy when we agree because I respect everyone on this panel. Personally, I don't know the judge, maybe, and I will talk offline, but I don't think prison reform is hardly anybody. However, we do have a need to protect law-abiding, mentally well people in our society. And when you defund police and you aren't taking care of that, you're going to run into vigilantism. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it because there's no one there to help him. And so, that needs revisited. And I also think maybe it's a topic for another time, but the privatization of prisons is certainly not something people should be making money off of. I've never agreed with that. So
all great recaps, guys. My final thought is that I agree with all four of you that we obviously need some mental health issues to be covered here, whether it's wards or something. You can't. The Bill's chart was unbelievable, where mental health is going. The capacity for them is going down, but then prison's going up. I mean, that's common sense. But my bigger thing is obviously that's huge. But my bigger thing is how the media immediately put it to a narrative, and that's where I don't like the fact that. Obviously, I saw it. You guys all saw it. Even the judge saw it because I showed him. But it's one of those things of the people that can't see that. That's what's disturbing to me. Like if you look at just go, oh my God, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Come on, man. You have to have some common sense at this point in time. And if you don't, that's going to lead into even more issues because it just keeps creating the divide more and more and more. That's all I have to say about that. Sub 60 Ed, you're back. We can see you. You're allowed to talk now. Thank you. The winner? You can't choose me. I know you want to.
I know, Rubio. That every week I want to, but you don't allow me.
I know.
For this one, it's got to be my G-Man. G-Man brought it strong.
Give it up for James Gingrich. Cruz is still pissed.
Yeah.
Who got it last week?
Every week.
And once again, guys, you did a fantastic job coming from Idaho, Northern California, Virginia, and Florida. All of you guys watching, keep subscribing or make sure you share it, subscribe to the YouTube channel for decades, and try to have some conversations with people you normally would not have a conversation with. And if you have to, agree to disagree. Gentlemen, cheers.
Another good one.
Thanks for tuning into the show. As many of you know, for the last 18 years, I've been traveling the country as the top long snapping coach in North America. In that time, I have placed over 1,000 long snappers to colleges across the country, the NFL, and created successful people along the way. There is a recipe to their success. I call it the Rubio method. The Rubio method is lightning in a bottle and will help you to reach your personal peak performance, exceed your organizational goals, and get you to your dreams. The Rubio method has been shared with multiple large corporations and schools over the last couple of years to great reviews. The Rubio method is officially hitting the road and moving full speed to enlighten those that hear and experience it. The Rubio method covers confidence, branding, niche business, and to the use of social media to market yourself. Thank you for your time, and for more information on bringing the Rubio method to your association, business, conference, organization, and or school, simply go to therubiomethod.com.